Hey, what's going on, everybody? Manny here once again. Welcome to DFS Zone, your source for daily fantasy sport lineup advice for the NFL and the NBA. Got a brand new video for you, ladies and gentlemen, today. Got a stud 5 and a value 5 and even some budget plays for you guys for tonight. But before I get started, like always, I appreciate all of you to drop a like on the video. And if you're new to the channel, it's your first time here and you have not as of yet become a part of the DFS Zone community here at DFS Zone, the only thing you have to do, ladies and gentlemen, is subscribe down below. Make sure you put on your post that post notification, that bell icon, turn that on so this way you don't miss out on any of my NBA or NFL lineup advice videos when they are uploaded. All right. With that being said, today's Monday, November the 12th, 2018, 9-game slate in the association, and we're just going to dive right into it, man. At point guard today, John Wall is definitely, I'm going to have some exposure to John Wall. I'm not going to lie to you guys, my viewers. John Wall is definitely someone you should consider in play today at home. You need about 51 from him. Pretty much attainable. He's averaging 44, as you can see here. I'm going to come down to Ben Simmons. I think they just need him a little bit more. Obviously, they made that trade with Minnesota. Jimmy Butler yet is not going to play tonight. He's probably going to be playing Wednesday for the first time with the team. So you know that what that means is this is going to be the Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid show today. So these guys are going to have to take in tons of minutes, take tons of shots, massive usage rate. So I expect no different from that today. More importantly, without Jimmy Butler. 15 points, 9.6 rebounds, pretty much about 10 rebounds per game from Mr. Ben Simmons. About 8 assists a game, 42 fantasy points. I round that off at 41.7 at 42 fantasy points per game. 9,900 you need from here on Fanduel. You need 49, pretty much 48, 49 fantasy points on DK. He's actually 9K on the nose, so you need 45 at 5X value. So very much attainable. This guy is 60, 65 plus upside. We go over to the cruncher and we're going to take a little bit closer look on Mr. Simmons. And Mr. Simmons, man, as you can see here, the minutes are there. I mean, he's averaging about 32, 33 minutes per game. Usage rate is about 21, 22% on average. And he's taking about 12, maybe 13, maybe anywhere between 11, 12 shots per game on the norm. And when he is right on, his field goal percentage is good. He's going to definitely put up a lot of points. And what he brings to the table is the rebounding, of course, and the assists. He's a double-double in the making any given night, as well as he has triple-double threat, skill set as well. So definitely a dangerous man, especially knowing that you only got himself and Mr. Embiid to really step it up. I mean, he brings a lot of things to the table, the steals, the blocks. He is just fantastic all the way through down the line. He gets double digit scoring pretty much on a regular basis. We come over here against Miami last year, not too bad, pretty much on average here, maybe about 41, 42 fantasy points. I would say about maybe more than 42 fantasy points. You got 52, 52, 50, 49, 55, 49. These were all last season. So he's had great success against Miami. That's a lot of these games are above his average right now. And as you can see, his price is actually still cheap considering some of the games he was in. Look at the price, $10,200, $10,005, and he's at $9,900. He is definitely in a very, very good spot. Miami coming in here, they're 15th in defending, power forwards, 4th in fantasy points allowed to power forwards in the NBA thus far this year, giving up 38.8 fantasy points. I'll round that off to about 39 fantasy points per game. 4 out of the last 5 games, the opponents, John Wall put up 48, Collison put up 35, Reggie Jackson 39, and Trae Young 51. And we're talking about Ben Simmons here, one of the top premier point guards or top players in this league who can score and can do a whole number of other things. I think he's in a very, very good spot here today. So Ben Simmons is my guy here as far as point guard stud. As far as point guard for value, I really don't have anybody that I really like. I'm not passing up, and I'm going to go over Kyle Lowry just simply because he's priced reasonable. I mean, I would say a little bit on the low side, and he has so much upside. So Kyle Lowry is the next guy I'm going to discuss. I will mention a budget play here. As far as value play, I mean, I'm not too keen about any of the other point guards. Unless something opens up over the course of the day, I'll definitely discuss it later here on the video. But, in the comment section or on Twitter as well as on the Slack chat. But Kyle Lowry, I mean, he didn't have to play too much in the last two games, especially in the last game against the Knicks. I mean, they really started taking over that game by the third quarter, second half pretty much, and it was definitely a wrap. So Kyle Lowry didn't have to play a whole lot. But again, coming in here, 17 points per game, 4 rebounds, 11 assists. He is the top assist leader in the NBA. He is number one in assists this year. 42 pretty much fantasy points per game. At 8,700, you only need 44 more or less. And then on DK, he is 8,400, so you need about 41, 42, pretty much around his price range, or his averages, pretty much more or less. Let's go over to the Cruncher and Kyle Lowry. And when it comes to Kyle Lowry, everything's looking pretty darn good, man. You know, usage rate about pretty 21, maybe 21, 22% on average. Field goals, he takes about maybe 11 or 12 on average a game. You know, his minutes are at about 33. I would say 32, 33 on a regular basis. He gets more than enough minutes. His usage rate is fine. He gets more than enough shots. He takes threes. He's taking about 5 or 6 threes per game, pretty much on average. And then he brings the assists. Like I said, he's number one in the league in assists this season. He's been on a little bit of a downtrend here on the assist totals with 8 and 8, but he'll bounce back right back. I'm not even concerned with that. The only thing I was concerned with here in the last game, obviously, he only had 8 assists, didn't get a whole lot of rebounds, but he also didn't get any steals and blocks. And as of late this year, he has shown that he's definitely been defending better as far as getting steals. Look at this here, 3, 5, 7, 9, 10 over the last 5 games prior to the last game. And then he's double-digit scoring pretty much every game, you know. So he's doing very, very well here. He's going up against New Orleans. New Orleans, again, and also last year, we'll open it up here. Last year against New Orleans, a 43 spot and a 33 spot in 2 games. The year before that, 49, pretty much a 50 spot. So he's had almost 50-point upside against his team. We know he's 50-plus upside he has in general. You know, but New Orleans, man, they've had their issues. Dead last in defending point guards, as you can see here, 30th. And they're also 5th worst in fantasy points. They're 25th. Overall, as far as fantasy points allowed to point guards this year, giving up 35.3 fantasy points per game thus far. They did give up 42 to Lillard, 54 to Curry, 47 to Jamal Murray, and 54 to Ricky Rubio. All right. They also have played players who are definitely on the lower end of the spectrum here, like Patrick Beverley. They gave up 34 to Beverley, and they gave up 34 to D'Angelo Russell. So obviously there is a lot of potential here for Kyle Lowry to put up some serious numbers. So Kyle Lowry is my other guy. These are 2 guys that I'm definitely going to be very much part of my core. Ben Simmons and Lowry. I'm going to share half of my lineups are going to have Simmons, and half of my lineups are going to have Lowry as my main point guard today. As far as value, there is some value that's going to open up. Obviously, you got to consider T.J. McConnell, obviously, with the situation in Philadelphia. So McConnell is somebody that I'm considering. I'm also considering Dante Exum, as you can see. Ricky Rubio more than likely will play, but if you keep an eye on that, folks, if Ricky Rubio does not play, right now he's a game-time decision, as you can see here, 6,600. Then Dante Exum is definitely going to be someone that's going to open up value there. And Dante is at 3,500. And 3,700 on DK. And then T.J. McConnell will be another guy to consider as well. So keep those guys in mind. T.J. McConnell here will more than likely, he got about 30-plus minutes in the last game, if I recall correctly. All right, let me just click on the Philadelphia game. So McConnell will be someone to consider here to get some minutes. I don't know if he's going to get 34. He put up 34. He had 34 massive minutes and put nearly 1 fantasy point per minute at 33 fantasy points. I don't expect him to get the same, but, he'll probably be in that 20 to 25-minute range possibly tonight. So, and he can get you 1 fantasy point per minute. He is definitely going to be a fine play at his price of 3,900, where you only need 18 or 19. So those are my 2 budget plays there. Take your pick. T.J. McConnell. Keep your eye on the game time decision with Mr. Ricky Rubio, and then you'll be able to know more or less what's the deal there. So let's go to shooting guard. At shooting guard, man, my guy today, DeMar DeRozan, again. 9,100. I'm going with DD once again. He's playing more than enough minutes, 25 points per game, 6.8 rebounds, 6.5 assists. He fills up the stat sheet, balances that out very nice, 44.9, pretty much 45 fantasy points per game. At 9,100, he needs only 45. And on DK, he's 9,300. You only need 46 there. He is definitely playable on both platforms, at least in my opinion. But 39-36, let's go to the Cruncher, Fantasy Cruncher, and let's go look at the shooting guards and Mr. DeMar DeRozan. And DeMar DeRozan, man, like I said, I mean, everything is just fantastic. Look at the minutes. Pretty much averaging about 35, 36 minutes a game, more or less. His usage rate is about, well, it's been down here the last 2 games. Obviously here, this game, was a little close. He didn't shoot as well this game as well. Wasn't really much involved in the offense. And he actually got shut down quite a bit by James Ennis, who was defending him. But over here in the Miami game, just another one of those poor shooting nights in a sense. 6 of 15, could have done a little bit better there. But I am not concerned. Pretty much about 25, 26% or better is his usage rate. There's no doubt about that. All right. Minutes are there. Field goal, he's taking more than enough field goals. If you calculate the field goals, it's about 18, 19 maybe on average. So he takes more than enough shots. He's going to get the shots. He takes a few threes, not a whole lot, maybe about 2 or 3 a game. If he nails 1 or 2, he'll take a few more. Obviously a very good free throw shooter. And then, of course, he brings all the other things that makes him so good. He defends. He gets rebounds. He passes the ball. He gets people involved. And again, last game, no blocks, no steals, but he's usually pretty good for some steals, and he has the occasional block. So I like DeMar DeRozan. His face is Sacramento. Sacramento is 27th in defending shooting guards thus far this year, allowing 19.8 fantasy points per game. That's only 19.8, not a whole lot, okay? But haven't faced any premier shooting guards. They really have not. They have faced Okogie, Danny Green, Malcolm Brogdon, Bazemore in the last 4 games. Those are the 4 guys they have faced in the last 4 games. Definitely a different animal today when they're facing DD. So sometimes you got to look at those fantasy point totals. You look at the last 4 or 5 games and you determine more or less, and I've said this here before again, you can't just sway away and say, hey, you know what, I'm not going to bother looking at this. They're only giving up 19. That means they're defending pretty well. Well, who have they had to defend? And after you take a look at what the fantasy totals have been to those particular players, then you can determine if, they are that good or not. So at this point in time, for me, I mean, they haven't really faced anybody in DeMar DeRozan's skill set. So we'll see how they do today. But right now, basically 27th in defending small shooting guards. I think that he has at least a shot. So I definitely like DeMar DeRozan here. DD is in play, my stud shooting guard. My value play, I'm going to come down, man. I kind of like the way this guy's been playing. He doesn't have a whole lot of upside, but he's in a good matchup. Terrence Ross for Orlando versus Washington. Hate to pick on Washington, but this is not a bad matchup for Terrence. Fournier is playing better, and this guy is getting more than enough minutes for me. 4,600. He's averaging 13 points, 2.8 rebounds, 2.1 assists, 23 fantasy points per game. At 4,600, you pretty much only need 23, which is pretty much his average. And on DK's 51, a little bit more expensive, you need 25 there. You come over to the Cruncher, and let me find my Terrence Ross. And Terrence Ross, man, I mean, look at the green. 2 solid games, 26 plus in the last 2 games. That's obviously above value, above his average. He's averaging in the last 2 games more than what his average is. 22 to 30 minutes. He's pretty much averaging about 24, 25 minutes a game, which is more than enough for his price range. Because when you're looking at 4,600, you want to be at least in that 20, 22 minute or better range. So he's averaging about 24, 25. And look at the shots. Look at the usage rate. 23 to 24% pretty much on average over the last 4 or 5 games. And as you can see, all the way from the very beginning of the year, he is taking double-digit shots per game. So he's averaging about maybe 12 on a regular basis per game. And we'll take that. And his field goal percentage is not too bad. Pretty much almost like 45, 50% on average. Almost all the time. And he takes about 5 or 6 threes on average per game as well. So he brings those 2 elements to the table. And then he has the occasional game that he gets a little dirty, gets involved, and he gets some rebounds. And that's what we want to see, especially here at DFS Zone. I say it all the time. I want to see guards, point guards and shooting guards. I want to see them that if they're not shooters, we don't mind them scoring a little bit, but if they are able to do other things like rebound, assists, get some steals, get some blocks, do all that dirty work, those are the kind of players that I want to definitely go with on a regular basis and that I would recommend you guys to do as well. Scoring dependent players are not that bad, but when they're not scoring well, they're not going to bring us a whole lot of fantasy points. So you definitely want to see that. You want to see players that even if they're shooting back poorly, that they're doing other things to help their team win. And at the same time, that's what we want for fantasy points. Steals and blocks and so on and so forth. So I like Terrence Ross here. It's going up against Washington. Washington is dead last in defending shooting guards this year, as you can see right here, 30th in defending shooting guards. They're 18th in fantasy points allowed to shooting guards this year in the entire NBA, allowing 25 fantasy points per game to shooting guards. In the last 2 games, they've been trending upward. They've given up 36 to Josh Richardson and 35 to Fournier the last time they played against each other. And he did play against Washington right here, 30 minutes. He put up 26.9, so pretty much a 27 spot. So there is opportunity for Terrence Ross to meet value and even exceed it. And he has 30-point upside. He can get you 30 to 35 if he plays at least those 25 to 30 minutes. So I like Terrence Ross here. I like the matchup. I think he's at a good price. For the price, you're going to get good value as far as per dollar. So Terrence Ross, definitely someone I'm considering here. When you consider budget here, under 4K, I'm kind of leaning towards Iman Shumpert at 3,900. You could consider Blakeney as well for Chicago. These guys are getting more than enough minutes, especially Iman. He's been starting for Sacramento, and he's been pretty much averaging 26 minutes or better, 26 in here, 31, 29, 24. Let's go over to the cruncher, take a closer look at Iman Shumpert. And as you can see, we're not going to expect a whole big usage rate. We're looking to see if he's getting enough minutes on the floor and taking enough shots and, being able to put up enough fantasy points. And as you can see, he's had 3 out of his last 5 games, 22 plus. And his price range has been under 4. And he's getting the minutes. So as long as he's getting 20 minutes or better and he's able to put 1 fantasy point per minute and he has a little upside to get you a little bit more per minute, that's what we want to see. So Iman Shumpert, to me, is a nice play here going up against San Antonio. San Antonio Spurs, 27th in fantasy points allowed to shooting guards thus far this year. That's the 4th most in the NBA. In the last 3 games, they gave a 46 to Harden, 30 to Wayne Ellington, and 37 to Fournier. So, Iman Shumpert not quite in the same level as some of these guys, but he is capable of at least getting you 20 to 25. I think he's in a good spot to do that. So he'll be a nice little budget play. We go over to small forward. At small forward, I am all over, listen, the price tag is high on Kevin Durant, but he's going to have to put up. I mean, no Steph Curry, possibly no Draymond Green. Now, again, if Draymond Green, game time decision, keep an eye on that, folks. He's a game time decision. If he does not play, Durant obviously looks a lot better. If he plays, there's a chance he might be on a minutes restriction. He's coming back from a toe injury. When guys come back from injuries like this, I'm pretty much fade those guys. I don't expect them to get a whole ton of minutes. I still like Durant no matter what. 11,300 is a steep price to pay, but I don't really love a lot of the plays here at small forward, today, at least on the top end. Other than him, maybe Kawhi Leonard, because he's Kawhi Leonard and he's going up against New Orleans at home. So I could see Kawhi definitely putting a 50 spot or better here. So if you're not on Durant, you want to pay down almost $2,000. Yes, absolutely. Kawhi Leonard, I'm going to have some exposure to. Probably not so much Paul George today. But Kevin Durant, again, 11,003 here. He's 11,000 on DK. So you need pretty much 55, 56. He's had 2 straight 50-plus games. So we know he has 60-point upside. We'll go right to the cruncher. So he has, again, he has 50-point upside. No doubt about it. 57 in the last spot. He was trending a little downward, but hey, again, this is Kevin Durant with no Steph, no Draymond Green. If they're not there, he's going to definitely take a lot of shots. It's going to be him and Klay Thompson is going to have to put up the massive amount of shots. And he brings more to the table than Klay Thompson. Obviously, Klay Thompson can get hot, but Klay Thompson is mostly just a shooter. He doesn't get a whole lot of rebounds. He doesn't pass the ball a whole lot, and he doesn't get a lot of steals and blocks. This is what Kevin Durant brings to the table. He can score. He has good field throw shooting ability. He can block shots. He can rebound. He can assist the ball, and he can actually get some steals as well. So I love everything that he brings to the table, which I've mentioned before. I mean, pretty much here, man, as you can see, usage rate pretty much over 31% in the last 2 games. I mean, gets more than 1 fantasy point per minute, as we all know. As far as minutes, they're there, 30 minutes or plus. Look at the shots. He's taking about I would say maybe 16, 17 shots per game. He'll get a couple of threes. Now, if he gets hot on the three, he'll take more than just 3 or 4 shots. But 1 or 2 shots a game from three is probably not going to be the average. It's probably more like 3 or 4. And then as far as everything else, he brings rebounding, he brings the steals, and of course, the assists. And of course, he brings steals and blocks, which we love. So he brings everything to the table. We know he's one of the top guys. Going up against the Clippers, they're 28th in defending small forwards. Also 21st in fantasy points allowed in the league to small forwards as far as NBA teams. They've given up 29.5 fantasy points per game. They gave up 41 to Covington, 54 to Paul George, and 35 to Carmelo Anthony. So there's definitely some room there for KD to get his share of at least 40 or more fantasy points. I could see him getting 50 or better. His price tag is up, but I think he's capable of getting 50 or better. And even if he's on a down night, maybe he'll get 40, 45. I can't see him getting in the 30s or 20s against this team here tonight. All right. As far as value, as far as value, I really like one guy stands out to me because his price tag has come down and I have to take advantage of it, at least for me. I mean, obviously, T.J. Warren is someone that might be interesting here because he's starting to get cooking now offensively, 5,800, not a bad play for him. But Mr. Namaye Bjelica is definitely too cheap, 5,300. This guy is pretty cheap right now. He's been on a downward trend, and that's one of the reasons why. And then, of course, I don't know, they dropped his price. I mean, let's go over here to the cruncher. And if we look here at Namaye Bjelica, he was just 6,400 the day before yesterday. And he has dropped down all the way down to 5,300 on FanDuel. That's an $1,100 discount. You got to take advantage of that $1,100 discount. And I'm saying to myself, why would they do that? And I know that the matchup is not, it's going to be a tough one. Maybe, possibly, they're thinking that Rudy Gay is going to be back and he's going to defend him well. I would think Rudy Gay is the one who's going to be on him. But if there's no Rudy Gay, this even looks even more prettier for me as far as Namaye Bjelica. When you look at who may be defending him, is DeRozan going to be defending him? I doubt it. DeRozan should be on Buddy or he should be on Mr. Fox, I would think. So in my eyes, I'm saying to myself, who's going to defend this guy? If Rudy Gay is going to be back, he's the only one who would. And if Rudy Gay is out, I just can't see how Namaye Bjelica cannot have a very, very good game here. But his numbers are just, they've been down. Obviously, 3 out of his last 4 games have been in the red, as you can see here. So it's below value. He's really been crashing a little bit there. But he has so much upside, man. We know for a fact. This guy is averaging. Now, coming back over here to the screen, as you can see, 12 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 28 fantasy points per game, 5,300. You need 26. And on DK, he is 5,700. You need 27. Still under his average, both sites. Under his average. And when we look at him a little bit further, I mean, numbers are there, man. Fantasy points per minute, he's capable of getting you 1 or better on average. He takes about 9 to 10 shots pretty much on average a game. Look at his usage rate. Pretty much about 18, I would say 18, maybe even 19% on average. Yeah, his shots have been off. 1 of 6, 6 of 13, 0 of 5, 2 of 8. He just needs to get back in the flow of this offense, man. And when he was in the flow of the offense, you could see here, he went 4 straight games where he was just lighting it up. And look at his price tag. Went from 53, 58 to 63, 65, all the way up to 7,200 to 64, and now back to 53. Just because of the price drop, I'm willing to take a stab on Mr. Bjelica. It's just, and then he's capable of getting some steals and blocks. As you can see here, he's active with his hands and feet. He can get some rebounds, and he passes the ball a little bit, but he's more of a rebounder, scorer that can hit some threes and is capable of defending and getting some steals and blocks. So I'm more in favor of him, especially even if there's no Rudy Gay. I see that as even a better possible play. San Antonio, 16th in defending small forwards. They're 23rd right now out of the NBA as far as fantasy points allowed to small forwards. They're giving up 25 fantasy points per game, but they haven't really faced a whole lot of good small forwards. They really have not. Looking here on my file, what I looked at, they have faced Ariza, got 32, Harrison Barnes, 29, and LeBron James, they have faced twice, and LeBron put up 56 and 63. And he's obviously the top stud that they have played against as far as small forward. But for Ariza to put up 32 and Barnes 29th, I think Bjelica is in the same vicinity as those guys as far as skills and as far as the amount of minutes he can possibly get here. If he can get his 26 to 28, 30 minutes, I think he could definitely crush Valley here. So I am going to be in a little I definitely like him here today in this matchup, especially at home in a paced-up game. Mr. Bjelica is in play for me. As far as budget here, there's two budget plays that I really like here. Obviously, Wilson Chandler, before I started doing the video, I got the news probably about an hour before I did the video that Wilson Chandler is starting. So Wilson Chandler is definitely someone that I'm going to have exposure to. And I like Wilson Chandler. Wilson Chandler is capable of getting very, very hot. He has 40-point upside. Let me just find him here first. He's now obviously with the Philadelphia 76ers, obviously as they wait for Jimmy B. And not only that, Wilson Chandler is going to probably fall right into, which I said the other day, he's going to probably just go right into this position as the small forward starter. But 15 minutes of the last two games that he has played, and we know that's going to definitely go up to about maybe 25, 30 minutes today, possibly even more, and especially if he's playing very well. We come down here to Mr. Chandler, and again, very small sample size for this year, but we look at last year when he could play, 40, 48, 30. He has 40-plus upside. There's no doubt about it. That's what I want to be able to share with you guys. At $3,500, obviously, this is a guy that is a $6,000 player. As you can see, more or less last year, pretty much in the six, quite a bit, a few times, 6,000, maybe as high as 6,200. So at 3,500, he is just definitely a steal. He should be a lock. He's probably going to be highly owned at 3,500 with the news, obviously, that he's going to start. I don't blame anybody. I would definitely eat the chalk. I have no problem with him being a part of my lineup for 3,500 with the potential of getting me 40 if he plays 30, 35 minutes. So, definitely he's my first guy. My other guy that I think will be is Dorian Finney-Smith, maybe another possible option here. 3 out of his last 4 games, he's been crushing at 22 fantasy points or better. At 3,800, you only need 18, and you want to see at least 18 minutes or better, and he's getting that. He's getting more than enough minutes, as you can see here, pretty much in the 20s, and he has 30-point upside. So he is definitely someone to consider. Those are my 2 plays there. All right, let's move on to power forward. At power forward today, obviously Anthony Davis going to have very little exposure because of the price. $12,200, they're going to need him to definitely play well here. Toronto is a pretty good team all the way around. Mr. Davis is going to have to take a lot of shots, and we know he will take a lot of shots. But $12,200 is a little hefty for me. I don't like paying that much money now. If I can get in a Mr. Wilson Chandler and maybe a couple other, maybe 1 or 2 more budget plays at a 4K or below that have a lot of potential, a lot of good favorable matchups, and have great upside, I may consider squeezing him in one lineup. But I'm going to come down. I'm not on Aldridge. I'm not on Tavares Harris either, or Wendell Carter. I'm coming all the way down to Mr. Montrezl Harrell. $6,500. That price tag has been coming up for Montrezl. But he's been playing so well. 13.8, pretty much 14 points per game, 6 rebounds, 1.5 assists, 29.7. That's pretty much 30 fantasy points per game. He's at 6,500. You pretty much need 32, 33. But on DK, he's 5,600 on DK. So you need about 26, 27 there, which is very much attainable. That will be below his average right now of 30. And 27 or better, he's done that in 4 straight games, as you can see that. And 29 or better or 30 or better, he's done it also on FanDuel, 4 straight games. The minutes are there and all. Let's come over to the cruncher. And, as you can see, he's been in the green. He's been in the green 4 straight games. The price tag obviously has been ballooning up. It went from $5,900 to $65 now, so $600 more on the price tag on him. But if he's going to keep getting 7 to 8 shots up close like that, and as you can see, he's very efficient with his shots because he's so close. He's usually in around the paint, right underneath the backboard, and he's able to basically put back easy, simple shots for himself. He does do all the dirty work. He rebounds, and of course, he brings the defense. He brings blocks to the table, steals. As you can see, he had 4 blocks over the last 2 games and 4 steals over the last 3 games. And he's double digits pretty much all the way across the board all the time. And in the last 2 games, his usage rate has gone up. 22 and 23 respectively over the last 2 games after being in that 16 or 15, 16% usage rate. So they are definitely utilizing him. They know they can go down low on him. And the thing is that they need guys like him and Tobias Harris. He needs to step up and be more like the center on this team because they don't have a center. So this is why he's getting the minutes and he's getting the time and he's getting a lot of these opportunities, especially in favorable matchups, up underneath the boards. So Montrezl Harrell, I definitely love. His home and away splits have been good too. 67% field goal percentage at home with a 29 fantasy point per game average. So he's been fantastic. Golden State coming in here, 24th in defending power forwards. As you can see here on the screen, 24th. They're 19th in fantasy points per game allowed in the NBA. 2 power forwards allowing 28 fantasy points per game on the regular basis. Giannis put a 50 on them. Jaren Jackson, JJ 38, and Marichek 46 are the most notable worthy mentions here. And again, if there's no, and especially here, this will be even more appealing if there is no Draymond Green. I mean, no Draymond Green, I definitely like Harrell even more, but I still like him even with Draymond. I think I still will put him in my lineups, but I love him more if there's no Draymond Green. So let me make sure that I mention that. As far as the bottom end here, as far as power forwards, I'm not thrilled. I mean, I love Siakam has been fantastic as of late. His price tag has come up, but he's been really, really playing very well. So he may be someone to consider. If you're not going to be on Harrell, then you pivot over to Siakam. Save the $300 if you wanted to go that route. I'm not on the youngster here. Coming down here on the bottom end here, you could go all the way down to Markieff Morris. Maybe I'm not going to be on Markieff Morris, but I am going really all the way down to budgets. I mean, Ed Davis may be someone to consider at 3,600. I'm thinking, where is he? I'm thinking more in the lines of, if I can find him, Anthony Tolliver is interesting to me with the Minnesota situation until they get Covington and Dario Saric over there and getting them playing. Anthony Tolliver will be someone to consider. 3,500. He's playing in more than enough minutes for 35. You want to see at least 16 minutes or better, and he's getting pretty much more than 16 minutes per game throughout the whole entire season, other than this game here against LA. Again, not a big, huge upside, but if he can get you 20 minutes, let's say we get him at 19, 20 minutes, and he can get us 1 fantasy point per minute, that's not a bad play at all. He has 20-point upside, so he may be someone to consider. Obviously, another person who's even more desirable here will be Jarrell Martin, who was fantastic last year for Memphis. Played him a number of times and came through for me last year. And he got himself a monster game just yesterday. 27 minutes, 7 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 block, and 2 steals. 27.7 fantasy points. We don't know where that's going to stand at now, but again, if there is no Aaron Gordon, obviously Mr. Martin is going to get some time on the floor. And if he get 25, 26, 27 minutes again, and he could put up 1 fantasy point per minute like this again, he will be definitely a very fine play. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be on him today due to the fact that he played yesterday 27 minutes and he played that well. So I can see him being a little more highly owned than Mr. Tolliver. So if you wanted to pivot over to Tolliver as a budget play, is not a bad possible pivot. But Jarrell Martin is definitely someone that I'm considering as well. So those are the 2 guys that I like there other than the top dog. At center, a lot of guys in play. Obviously, Embiid, I'm going to have some exposure to him, but I'm probably going to be more so on Simmons, like I've said before in my videos. Try not to pair them both up unless it's really, really a favorable matchup. So I may go that route today, but maybe in one lineup, but not as a core. So Joel Embiid is definitely in play, ladies and gentlemen, no doubt about it. So is Karl-Anthony Towns going up against Brooklyn and Jared Allen. I think he's in a fine spot, especially playing at home and knowing that he still don't have, Dario Saric as well as Covington. He's going to definitely have to do some extra work. So I'm going to have some exposure to him as well. I'm going to come all the way down, man. Marc Gasol, which I've mentioned, and I put him out here before, and he definitely came through. Not really on a high end the last time I recommended him, but he's been playing so well. It's like for a moment there I was telling everybody, I don't know what happened to Marc Gasol. He's lost a step. He's not the same player he used to be, but he still defends other centers, opposing centers very well. He's still probably one of the best, or maybe the best, defending center in the league as far as defending opposing centers. But as of late, man, the minutes are up. This team is playing so well, and I think that obviously it just runs through the whole entire lineup, every possible position. Marc Gasol being a defensive center throughout his career, all of a sudden now he's starting to find his offense again, and he's starting to put some ball. 2 straight double-doubles, 14.7 points, 9 rebounds, 4.4 assists, 38.9, 39 fantasy points per game at 8,500. You need about 42 from him, and on DK, he is 7,100. 7,100 on DK, you only need 35. And he has smashed 35 in 2 straight games. He has smashed 39 in 2 straight games. He has 2 double-doubles. He's been playing well. Look at defensively, 3 blocks in this game with 2 steals. Last game, 2 steals. If he keeps the turnovers down, he can keep on rebounding and scoring. And he's capable of hitting threes, and he's a pretty good free throw shooter as well. Let's come over here to the Fantasy Cruncher and Marc Gasol. And then he's in a matchup. He's facing the 30th the Utah Jazz, who is 30th in the league right now, dead last in defending centers. But look at these numbers, man. His numbers have been fantastic. He's obviously averaging more than a fantasy point per minute. That's for one. Look at the usage rate in the last 2 games, 22 and 26. That's about 23.5%, 24% over the last 2 games. That is that's trending upward. As you can see, he's been choppy. And then all of a sudden he drops usage rate and now is all the way up again. Then the shots are starting to come back again. He's taking about 12, 13 shots per game on average. He's taking his 2, maybe 3 threes on average, pretty much 3 threes on average from 3. And then, of course, very good free throw shooter, as you can see. Hasn't missed a whole lot of shots when he's been able to get to the line. The rebounding is there, double digits. He can't pass the ball. He fills up the stat sheet. He can do it all. Keep the turnovers down and keep just defending. Keep stealing, keep blocking shots. And he's done that very well throughout the entire season, pretty much as far as steals. And he's been pretty active with the shot blocking as well. I really like Marc Gasol here, man. You got to love him here. All right, so he's been trending upward the last few games. Going against Utah last year, pretty much also, clicking here. He did well in 2 games against Utah. All right. This is last year. This is this year, 51 and 41 already, and then 34, 44, and 44 last year. So he has done well against Rudy Gobert. And in the meantime, Gobert has not done well against Gasol. So, it's because of the defense. But Marc Gasol, definitely in play with me. Utah, 30th in defending centers, 22nd in fantasy points per game to centers in the NBA. They've been coughing up 41 fantasy points per game to centers thus far this year. They did give up 51 to Gasol. They gave up 62 to Towns and 42 to Jokic. So they have had their share of difficulties, Mr. Gobert, with the top-tier centers. So Marc Gasol in a good spot here for me today. At that price range, especially at DK, he's definitely going to be in my lineup. I will be playing him tonight on my DK lineup. If you wanted to find some value here, man, I really don't have a whole lot of guys. I think Steven Adams as well as Julius Randle and even Mr. Ayton are all in favorable, good opportunities against teams that definitely have had their issues with centers. So you can go down if you wanted to pay a little bit more. You wanted to go down a little bit cheaper. Those are possible value plays. I'm going to go all the way down to Jared Allen in that Minnesota game. We know Karl-Anthony Towns has not done too bad this year defending against the centers thus far this year, but he has known in his career thus far, in his short career, of not being a good defensive center. So I'm going to throw Mr. Jared Allen in the mix here at 5,900. His price tag has come down a little bit, so we'll take the discount and give the young man a shot. At 5,900, you pretty much need 29. On DK, he's 5,000. He's 5,000 on the nose. You only need 25, which is very much attainable for him. He has almost 45, 50-point upside as he got a 49.8 here against Denver just 2 games ago. So he's up here at 11 points, 7 rebounds, 1.5 assists, pretty much 2 assists a game, 30 fantasy points. So he's actually priced below his average, which is pretty good. We'll take that any day. That's 5 points, differential on Fanduel. On DK. So let's go over to the Cruncher and let's take a look at him a little bit further. And he is right here, Mr. Allen. And you know what? Not too bad. The minutes are there, about 20. I would say he's about maybe 25, 26 minutes on average. Usage rate, pretty much at about 16, 17% on average. And then look at the field goals. He's averaging about maybe, I would say, 8 field goals, 7 field goals a game. He usually gets everything that's up close. And he's been pretty efficient. 4 of 7, 5 of 7, 4 of 8. So usually about 50% or better. 7 of 14, 50%. Over here, 100%. What we need him to do is all the other dirty things. Get on the foul line and be efficient there. Get the rebounds. He's doing that as well. And he passes the ball a little bit and he brings the defense. 5 blocks in one game, that is fantastic. 1, 2, so he's had 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 blocks over the last 5 games and about 5 steals. And that's all the additional fantasy points we definitely want to see from anybody in any position when it comes to fantasy basketball. So we want to see that from Jarrett Allen. So Jarrett Allen, definitely someone to consider here. They're going up 13th in defense. Yes, facing Minnesota. They're 13th in defense thus far this year, 19th in fantasy points per game allowed to centers, giving up 30 fantasy points per game. Gobert put up 53 on them. Nurkic put up 36, and Mr. Cauley-Stein put up 32. So I could see with Cauley-Stein and Nurkic getting that 32, 36, I could see Mr. Jarrett Allen being able to attain that as well. Don't see any budget play at center. With centers, either you pay up for them or you pay in the mid-tier range, more or less, because there ain't really anybody down in the bottom that will be, at least in my opinion, someone that you would want to play. But other than that, that's pretty much it, ladies and gentlemen. That is pretty much it, man. So I wish everybody a lot of luck. I hope you guys liked the video. If you're new to the channel, again, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you put on the post notifications. Hey, share the video with others. Put it up in social media. Let's get more people involved with DFS Zone here as a community. Also, I have a Slack chat. We go over the entire slate. We discuss best possible plays, whatever it may be. Any changes in my lineup, I discuss it on the Slack. So that invite is in the description of the video down below. Everything is in there, as well as my social media. I'm trying to get a little more active with Twitter. It's a little difficult for me, but again, Slack, Twitter, all my handles are all there, all of my social media. So if you want to reach out to me, you want to discuss with me any possible cash plays or anything like that, because I'm more of a GPP player, I'd be more than happy to tell you what may be the best possible plays at cash as well. So again, wish everybody a lot of luck, and I'll see you guys in tomorrow's video.